Good afternoon. I'd like to welcome everybody to the September 4th, 2025 Smyrna Municipal Planning Commission meeting. I will call the meeting to order, and if you'll stand with us, Steve is going to lead us in prayer and Selena in the pledge.
Would bow your heads. Dear Lord, thank you for today. Thank you for the town of Smyrna. Thank you for all of the leaders and the staff that are here tonight. Lord, we ask that you be with these proceedings, that everything that would be discussed and contemplated would be pleasing in your sight, Lord. We ask that you continue to bless the town and bless us as we move forward. In Jesus' name, amen.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you, Steve and Selena. We'll now move to our next agenda item, which is public hearing. The first one being subdivision regulation amendment for section 7-101.2 and addition of appendix A. Kevin.
Yeah, this is an amendment that we talked about last month at the last month's meeting. And you need to have the public hearing and then vote on it later on in your agenda tonight. This would just add some wording to our subdivision regulations to provide a third option for surety, which basically would be for the either still be required to have a letter of credit or a cashier's check or other form as approved by the town attorney, just to give them a third option for developers and for surety to be provided. And then we did add, or recommended adding an appendix, which is, the appendix is simply just a sample form of a letter of credit, just so that we've had some folks ask, what are you looking for in a letter of credit? What do we need to include? That sort of thing. And this just puts that in writing for them so everyone can see that. And that's all it is.
Okay, and with that, I'll open the public hearing for anyone that would like to come forward and provide comments. I'd like to remind everybody the comments are limited to 3 minutes, and Catherine will keep time. So is there anyone here that would like to come forward and comment on this agenda item? Okay, seeing no one's coming forward, we'll close the public hearing and we'll go back into session for the Planning Commission. And Kevin, our next item is plan of services for 452 Properties LLC.
Yeah, this is just, state law does require the Planning Commission to hold a public hearing on the plan of services when an annexation takes place, in addition to the public hearing that is held at the council meeting for a plan of services. And so that's a fairly recent change. So this public hearing is for the request for annexation. It is on your agenda later on tonight for 452 Properties LLC. The plan of services has an appendix to it, I guess. The standard plan of services is included. This would include, it's one parcel of land, about 226.3 acres, as well as the right-of-way of about a mile of State Route 266 Jefferson Pike to the Mona Road intersection, and then about 22,300 feet of Mona Road northward from Jefferson Pike. All that would be included within the plan of services. The services the town would be providing would be all services except for water. This does lie within Consolidated Utility District's boundary for water service. And then we did include, which we can talk about now, or we can talk about it later, whichever commission wishes. But we did include some additional information just that we looked at for revenues and costs to provide services to this area. So that's as well as it was included into the plan of services as well with that appendix. So that's all I've got at this time.
Okay, so I'll now open the public hearing for anyone that would like to come forward again and provide us comments concerning this plan of services for 452 properties. And if you do want to come forward, just remind everybody you'll give us your name, address, and whether you live within the town limits or not. Okay, doesn't look like anyone is coming forward, so we'll close the public hearing on this item, and I will call the Planning Commission back in session. So next, we have citizens' comments, and understanding that we have 2 people that would like to speak tonight. Just a reminder that this portion, the citizens' comment, reserved for those citizens that have signed up to address the board, and they must do this at least 24 hours in advance. And this is pursuant to the town's public comment policy. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes. Additional comments may be submitted in writing. Once again, Catherine will keep our time. First, I have Patrick Bouchane. If you'd come up, give us your name, address, and whether or not you live within the town limits or not. And Catherine will let you know when we're ready to go.
Okay. My name is Patrick Bouchane. I live at 6614 Lee Road in Smyrna, outside the city limits. I'm here this evening on behalf of myself, my wife, as well as Terry Fitzcharles and Chuck and Melissa Taylor. As you all know, we're the 3 neighboring homeowners to the Hidden Springs subdivision on Lee Road. The final plat is on the agenda for approval tonight. I want to thank Kevin Rigsby for continuing to keep the communications open with us, answering questions and explaining details surrounding the final plat. And thanks to Steve Sullivan. You've been a part of this since October of 2023. Lots of discussions, lots of meetings, and I think we've both learned a lot through this process. Mr. Hill, thank you very much for showing an interest in this matter as well. We received a final signed agreement from David Weekley Homes regarding the shared easement, landscape buffer, and several other items. All of us homeowners believe it is complete and will be executed tonight following the outcome and discussions of the meeting. We have reviewed the final plat through open records request as late as this morning. It also appears to be correct and meets all of our needs in alignment with the agreement. I'm here tonight to listen to the discussion and see if the final plat is approved in its current state. If all goes through as presented and planned, we will give David Weekley Homes representative here tonight, Wes McGill, the fully signed and executed agreement. We're incredibly relieved to have reached this agreement. It's been 14 months since they began excavation. It's been a very lengthy and complex process. And now we look forward to the smooth and uneventful execution of the items as prescribed by the agreement with David Weekley Homes, and hopefully a return to a calmer, more peaceful time living out on our acreages on Lee Road. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. I didn't think we'd ever hear the word, so appreciate that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Okay, next, Teresa Fitzcharles, if you'd come up, please, and again, your name and address and whether or not you live within the town limits. Is Teresa here? Okay. Okay. All right, then we'll move on to our next item, which is approval or corrections of the minutes for the August 7th, 2025 regular meeting. Counselor, are the meeting minutes in order?
They're in order unless the commission has any amendments they'd like to make.
Any questions, concerns, or changes that the commission?
One addition, Mr. Chair.
Sure.
Under section 9, I just wanted to add that I had requested a report on the Olana development on Sam Ridley, just west of the YMCA.
Okay. So noted. Anything else? If not, I will entertain a motion.
I move to approve the minutes with the addition given by Charles.
I have a motion to approve with the addition. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Further discussion? All those in favor of approving the minutes, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The minutes are approved. We are now on to old business. Our first item is annexation, zoning, and plan of service request. 452 Properties LLC, Monterone and I-840, annexation and PUD zoning request.
Yeah, this is an annexation request. This is a little different than what we had saw last month, or the last time this was on your agenda, as far as they did amend it a little bit. This request is for annexation with a zoning of a PUD zoning with a kind of a C2 and I2 split, with really the main PUD, I guess, item in there is for requesting a 60-foot height limit for the industrial buildings where 50-foot is the limit allowed in the I-2 zone. Again, this is on Mona Road, it also borders 840. Surrounding zoning is RM in Rutherford County. The land use plan for this area is the 840 Gateway Character Area, which would support hospitality, restaurant, retail, high-density residential, and industrial and warehousing uses. The major thoroughfare plan does designate Bill France Road as principal arterial. The plan also shows a future minor arterial connecting Bill France Road to Hickory Grove Road and eventually to Jefferson Pike. Development of these properties would require dedication of right-of-way and construction of this improvement. Again, the requested PUD is essentially, it's about 34.3 acres to be zoned C2 and the remaining 190.95 to be zoned I2. Again, with that request that the height limit be 60 feet in the I2 areas versus 50. The maximum square footage allowed in the C2 area is 350,000. Maximum square footage in the I2 area is 2.5 million. No pole signs would be allowed. That is the other caveat in that PUD. There would not be any pole signs allowed. An informational comment, the required minimum fire flow is 2,000 GPM at 20 PSI with a sprinkler reduction. This area is not contiguous to our current town limits, so it would require either a non-contiguous annexation or the annexation of several miles of existing county and state road right-of-way, which is what we as a staff would recommend you do if you choose to go forward with this annexation. Again, it's about a mile of West Jefferson Pike, which is a state highway, and then 4.2 miles of Mona Road. Again, a non-contiguous annexation would require an interlocal agreement between the town and Rutherford County with regards to emergency response and road maintenance for that area between the existing town limits and that newly annexed area. So most likely we will be taking over emergency response and road maintenance anyway. So we might as well go ahead and do the annexation and make it contiguous. Obviously, annexation of those roads would require the town to begin maintenance of those roads on the effective date of annexation, as well as provide emergency services, including accident response and traffic control. Sewer, and Mr. Peach can chime in at some point with this. There's been a discussion, quite a bit of discussion regarding sewer to serve this properties. This is something an agreement has been discussed at the staff level, and has been a lot of work put in on both sides with that agreement. So we did state that the town would not provide sewer service to any property outside of Rutherford County boundaries. Some of the properties that are under consideration, not with this request tonight, but in any future, if this is annexed, the future portion, there is some question as to where the actual county boundary is, and so we would not extend any sewer or serve anything outside of our county boundary. Again, there is no agreement signed at this point, but there is a draft that's been discussed extensively there. And any potential new alignment beyond where that discussion is might require an easement to be obtained from the Army Corps of Engineers as well, depending on how things work out with easement acquisition. One of the things they have shown on the plan is a donation of land for a fire station. That is something that could certainly come into play that we might need to look at in that area. We did ask that they be responsible for that initial grading of that site. Actual location may need to be evaluated, or will need to be evaluated by the fire department, and may need to move from the currently shown location. And then there's been quite a bit of work with CUD on some pretty extensive off-site improvements required for water as well to get service to that area. A lot of that kind of falls into the plan of services, as I mentioned earlier. Again, we did do a look at a little bit deeper dive on the plan of services with regards to costs and revenue. I did, Within there, I did kind of this current request as well as the potential request, because there's an additional tracts of land that may be in play if the council chooses to do this annexation of some additional property that they own. And so we did look at both this initial cost as well as a future cost. And so we detail the cost for additional police personnel and equipment, the fire personnel, as well as construction of a station and apparatus. Again, that would come with the eastern parcels, not with this initial request. Street maintenance, we kind of looked at that based on our current milling and resurfacing cost per foot and plug some numbers in there. There would also be, obviously, that's just maintenance and milling and resurfacing. That's not any upgrades of anything. Obviously, that if we add we did look at the cost if we did upgrade those existing roads, just to add shoulders, it would be about 14 million was the estimate. There is a bridge on Pomona Road across Fall Creek that is already noticed or is a substandard bridge with regards to the weight rating. And so there is a grant from TDOT to the Rutherford County Highway Department to replace that bridge. We have, through discussions, they have said that if the town chooses to annex the road, then it would be transferred to us as well, so that that bridge, that grant will still remain in place. It is, at this time, it is slated that construction would begin in fall of 2028, so it's about 3 years out before that would be done.
That's what the county's planning.
No, that's what TDOT is planning.
TDOT.
Through the grant, yeah. We did provide estimates for street lighting, a little over $17,000 a year, kind of annual cost once we put those in, to provide the streets on the lighting on the streets that would be annexed. And then not anticipating any expenditures for parks since there's no residences here or proposed. I did include just for everyone's information, what the kind of projected costs are from CUD. It's a pretty substantial amount of dollars, over north of $30 million of water main installation and tanks and that sort of stuff for improvements there. And then approximately about $10 million in construction costs to extend the necessary sewer mains and lift station for the sewer costs, as well as about a little over $400,000 in easement acquisition cost. In the discussion of the agreement, the town would acquire the easements, but the developer would have all costs for construction of the main and everything. So we did look at revenues, and the revenues, I basically, at current tax values is what that is at this point. As far as property tax values, obviously if they develop, the values would go up. At the current tax values, I did include that. It also did provide an estimate on the impact fees based on the proposed maximum square footages that were included. So, which translates to about $8.5 million roughly in road impact fees and about $2 million in public safety impact fees at full build out, which at current rates. So that would obviously have many years, those would be realized over a several year period. Obviously this is a multi-year project, so it's not something that would happen immediately. A lot of the local or the state shared revenues and things like that are per capita, and so there's obviously no new people, so there would not be any increase in some of those revenues. So I think we had a few more. This is kind of orients everything kind of in a north-south way. Again, the current town limits are at Jefferson Pike and 840, and so you know, the streets highlighted there that we would be annexing, and then the parcel there at the top. And then the portion that's zoned as C2 versus an I2 being in yellow and orange there. feel like I'm missing something, but I think that's everything.
Okay.
Mr. Peach may want to jump in on the sewer agreement if you're all ready for that, or if you have any questions.
Let's do, any questions for Kevin on what we've heard thus far?
Yeah, you mentioned streetlights. Is Mona Road then going to get streetlights from Jefferson Pike all the way in?
That's what we had planned, yes. As well as Jefferson Pike.
And speaking of the non-contiguous nature of the annexation, the area that would be between 840 and Jefferson and the newly annexed area, did you say that we would be responsible for police and fire?
We would.
Under agreement with the county?
Under agreement with the county, if we did a non-contiguous, yes, we would be, that would have to be an agreement negotiated between the town and the county as to emergency response in that area as well as street maintenance within that area. But that's not what we're recommending.
Sure.
So that's, we feel like most likely if we were to go that route, the negotiation would lead to us being responsible for the maintenance and the response anyway. So, so that's why we did not choose it. We're not choosing to recommend that to you. Just to make it contiguous is the cleanest way to go.
And the annexation of Mona Road portion would not affect the TDOT timeline on the bridge build-out?
They have indicated it would not affect that, no. Yeah.
Kevin, you mentioned, and you were kind of reading, so I'm not sure if I heard you correctly, but
Okay.
can you talk about the easement acquisition and the cost associated with that one more time?
Yeah, it's about the estimate is about $435,000. The timeline is usually, Mr. Peach usually says it usually takes about 9 months to go through that process. So
And the cost of that, how is that all on the town? How does that get split? How does
it
that
would
work?
be on the town, it would be split between sewer and natural gas, because that's the natural gas easements as well. So it would be kind of split between the two funds as far as that goes. But it would
And then
be,
if CUD's involved, CUD has a piece as well, right?
but they would be paying for those, yeah.
So essentially, acquiring the easements, paying for the easements, the cost of that is all town cost.
That's what has been negotiated in the agreement, yes, to this point.
So the
Yeah, it
cost,
says-
sorry, the cost on the developer is the cost of running the actual utilities.
The construction of the sewer main, water main, all those things.
Any alignment would have to go through the Army Corps. Any new alignment?
Potentially, if for some reason this doesn't work, and that's primarily affecting the parcels on the east side, more so than this particular piece of it.
In your opinion, is that
Oh, that's.
easily done?
That's not easily done.
It's never easily done.
Yeah, that'll take quite a bit of time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You mentioned several times this east property
Let's see if we
that
can-
may be a matter in the future. Where is that at on this map?
Let me see if I can think, don't have it. It would be, should work, here we go. This is Palace Chapel Road, there's Bill France, it's that area right in here, picking up both sides of Bill France and northwest of Palace Chapel Road.
So between that location and this current request, that is not, that's all still county
Yes.
and, okay.
Yeah, and to annex that piece, that's one of those, we kind of costed that out separately. To annex that area,
You'd have to get Palace Chapel.
you would have to annex from Mona Road, down Allen Ballard Road, and then up Palace Chapel to get to that area. Because we couldn't, the simple way would be to come down Bill France Boulevard,
But
but
it's
it
outside
crosses
the
the county line, so we can't do that.
And is this or is this not a part of our growth boundary?
It is a part of our urban growth boundary. The portion of it that is within Rutherford County at least. So some of this parcels, couple things. Some of these parcels extend over that county boundary or where everyone believes the county boundary to be. And then part of it is outside of our urban growth boundary and actually in Murfreesboro's urban growth boundary. The extreme kind of eastern portion of this that's not included in any of these requests.
But I think they've pretty much stated they have no intentions of serving this area.
That is correct, yes.
That's same as Wilson County, Lebanon as well, right?
I don't know about, we've had some contact from folks in Wilson County. I know there's been some discussion. I think they've already that industrial development there. I think Lebanon, Wilson County is trying to push, at least Wilson County, I shouldn't speak for Lebanon, I guess. What Wilson County folks have told me is they are trying to push the industrial development to this area because that's where they want it. They've had some issues in other parts of their county with some requests that became pretty controversial and whatnot, and they're trying to push most of the industrial development, at least in Wilson County, to this area.
Hey, Kevin, from Jefferson Pike up to the proposed I-2 on Mona Road, what's that currently zoned?
It's,
It's
most
county.
of that is zoned RM in the county. I think some of the area along at the interchange, the county has some additional, I know on the south side of Jefferson Pike, there's some different zoning there, some sort of industrial or type zoning, I believe. I don't know that anything on the north side of Jefferson has anything other than RM.
And that's a good point, because I think leaving it non-contiguous would leave that open to the county to still do something there. So to their recommendation, if you're going to annex this in, you'd want to take it all in and make
Yeah.
it contiguous. That way, at least it belongs to the town for their approval of things that would come following. So
Yeah, does it look like there's some residential in the mix somewhere in there?
There's a little out there.
There's definitely some houses in that area, for sure.
Would it be prudent, if this gets approved for this I-2, you're getting a lot of heavy equipment traffic, that they need to exit out through Bill France rather than come down Mona?
I think that's been discussed, has it not?
Yeah, that's certainly been discussed. I mean, in fact, the last page, I think it's the last page of what's in front of you there, what they'd submitted, they kind of had a kind of at least a concept of how they would essentially make it really, really difficult to make a right turn, because if we got that,
Yeah, I think they were going to engineer it to where you
Yeah.
could hardly even make a right with a tractor.
Because
And
this
then,
is, let's see if I can get this is Mona Road, it's kind of at the bottom on this map. And so there'd be this roadway here, it comes north. Here's kind of the roadway I mentioned, the kind of that north-south roadway. But, so yeah, they've looked at that to try to make it at least as difficult as it can be for people to not make a right turn out of there. You know, so it's, they're doing, I guess, what they can do at this point to keep people from using that road for
So if
industrial
that
traffic.
bridge that's on Mona Road, substandard bridge now, is TDOT planning to make it strong enough for?
Yeah,
future heavy
my
equipment?
understanding is it's not even strong enough now to carry
You
a
take your
school
life in
bus.
your own hands crossing it with a car.
Now, yeah,
I mean,
that's what the
like
future
I think
bridges
it's
plans
maybe
are.
5 ton or 10. I mean, it's a pretty low weight right now.
Okay.
So it's not substandard, it's not unsafe from the standpoint of you're worried about it collapsing or anything like that. It's just substandard as far as the amount of weight it could carry. So,
So that would also keep it redirected away from Powell's Chapel Road,
well, for this, of course, this was,
if you're using
Yeah.
the non-turn anyway.
right, it would not be directed, primarily it would be
It
for
would be
this track.
directed back
The
towards-
future tracks, we'd have to they would have to do something, if that ever comes in, we'd have to look at that separately to keep them utilizing Bill France. The concern we've had, because we've seen it other places in town, is sometimes if a driver has not been here before, he goes wherever GPS tells him to go, and we've had issues there in the past in other locations.
Florence Road.
Florence Road is
Yeah.
exactly what I'm talking about, yeah. So that's the only concern I have is I think once they're there, I think they can talk to the people there. They're gonna make it hard to turn right anyway. Getting out, they would go back. My concern would be, coming in, but I don't know if there's anything that us or the developer could do to prevent that, really. So,
So this is about 40% of what was before us before?
roughly, maybe a little less than 40, because the other track's almost 600 acres is what's left. This is about 225 or so.
And is this a financially viable project?
I guess, financially viable for the town or for the developer?
For both.
I think it's a stretch for sure.
Let's do this.
Yeah.
Dave, I hate to put you on the spot, would you, I think you could probably address Charles's question concerning the town's position on viability.
Good evening. Excuse me. Good evening, Dave Santucci, Town Manager. Yeah, we've been trying to work with the developer on trying to make this as financially viable for the town as possible. Now, there may be some things that this commission and the town council have in terms of ideas that we haven't thought of yet. We're happy to review those as you look through the utility agreement, because at the core, the utility agreement really is the main crux of this. If you don't have sewer, you don't have a project, right? So we've worked through to how we can make this at least get this in the best position possible for consideration by this body. And the way that it works, and Kevin has talked a little bit about it, is that the annexation request before you, as of right now, is just the western portion. But if you really look at the utility agreement, it is contemplating annexation of that eastern portion at a point in time. It was made clear to the developer through our discussions over the past 6 months and up to this point that at this point, that eastern portion, we're not ready to annex that yet. It's a far stretch for us. You can see the roadway issues that we have. It would trigger probably some additional resources related to public safety because it's not going to be contiguous with that western portion that you see there. So the way that it's structured is that the utilities would be ran up Mona Road and over to both parcels. However, the eastern portion would be charged at the outside town limit rate until such time as the town requires or requests that they annex that eastern portion. And at that point, they would have 90 days to come before the town for that annexation request. So we would control the annexation of that eastern portion, which allows us to kind of start where we're at with what you see here. But I don't want to make any bones about it that the ultimate goal of the developer is to annex both the eastern portion and the western portion. So from a financial viability standpoint, I'll let the developer speak on his behalf as it relates to the financial viability of the project for him. But for the town, we've tried to put this in the least cost-intensive position for us from a service perspective. And so we believe that at least what we have here, Mona Road is in decent shape. You talked a little bit about what those improvements would be on that road. So we are looking at doing what we would normally do. If we need to go out there and fix potholes and put up lighting and street signs and those sorts of things, the low-hanging fruit we would do as we would do any annexation of an additional road. Major improvements are not contemplated at this time. I would also say that we are looking to, as we have started our pavement assessment project, and that at least at the town council level we have talked about and funded, that is starting to go underway. And I've asked Mr. Rose, would it be possible to do a pavement assessment of this area just to kind of get a feel for what the roadway looks like. So we're gonna look at that over the next couple weeks. We've just kicked off that project, so it'll take a little while for us to figure that out, to get the pavement grading of that road. But we want to make sure we have that data if and when this does come before town council. I hope I've addressed your questions, and if there's anything else that I can answer, I'd be happy to do so.
Yeah, Mr. Santucci, thank you. I know you probably want to stay away from numbers as much as possible, but in an order of magnitude, right, what's the return on the capital outlay that the town is going to be putting out for a period of time? And I guess that's what you were probably getting at, Charles, right? Does it make sense for us to put that money out here when we have other priorities in the town elsewhere? And is there going to be an adequate cost recovery in the short term or near term? Is it 5 years? Is it 20 years? Kind of.
I think it's a long-term investment for both the town and the developer. What we're hearing from the developer is this is probably a full build-out over 15 years, maybe give or take out to 20. So.
Just this portion?
No, that would
The entire-
include,
That was
that
the whole
include the
project.
entire development as well. So the town would not see that tax revenue, obviously, for quite some time. Now, we're not building out the utilities, and we've made that clear. And we would also recoup the impact fees that Mr. Rigsby discussed, as well as any tap fees. We've talked about that. Now, there'll be offsets if the tap fees, if we need to run like just as an example, I don't know the numbers here. We need to run a 12-inch line for the growth of that area, but the requirement of that development is a 6-inch line. We would offset those tap fees as we have done in the past for other developments as well. So I don't have any real hard numbers for you. What I can tell you is that the capital infrastructure burden is on the developer, and it certainly allows for future growth within this area at any time in which the town council and planning commission decided that it was appropriate. The other thing that I will mention is that we've looked at, the costs and done a pretty significant plan of services document for you. I think a little bit more robust, a lot more robust than what we've done in the past, based on the magnitude of this project.
Well, the developer's gonna have to invest a significant amount for the utility construction.
That's correct.
So the developer's willing to front-load this project, keep the town's burdens at a lower amount initially until phase 2 comes in? Then we've already got the infrastructure in, now we're gonna switch over to the other side of the road.
That's correct. And you may or may not know, but I think this is why they were seeking almost a parallel process with the county. I'm hoping to get that annexation from the county as kind of a base zoning until they could annex into the town. They have at least verbally committed that they fully intend to annex into the town if so approved. Obviously, something that they can discuss in more detail and verify to you.
So if this were to make approval through us, we can have some assurity that the west side will be coming through the town as well?
Yeah, I'd like Mr. Peach
Is
to
that part
opine
of
on
the
that one,
agreement?
but I think we've shored that up in the utility agreement.
Yeah, they covenant that upon becoming contiguous, that they will consent to annexation.
There was discussion initially when this first came out, obviously the fire station. And I think you mentioned something about maybe a substation for PD. Is that still necessary?
Substation for PD, probably not, only because there's a substation place there at the new fire station out there on Jefferson right now.
Okay. So the building of the fire station is on the town?
Building of the fire station would be on the town.
But the
Donation of the land and potentially
Subject
grading
to
of
site
it.
approval
Mhm.
by the town. Subject to site approval by the town.
Of course.
I mean, the topography and so forth, right?
Yes,
If they had
yes.
to move to another site, are there additional options?
There may be some additional options. I think we'd probably want to keep it on a main road. And I'd work with the fire chief on, and the developer, of course, on where we could put that.
Traditionally, though, we see costs for the build of a fire station funded through impact fees. So that would be something that.
One cow feeds the other.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, the one that we just built was all funded through impact fees and part of the sales from the land there at Seward's Landing. So it was not, out of our budget or out of our cash reserves, really.
So Dave, with this on the, I think you and I might have talked about this already for public and consumption, I guess. With this going on, as well as us looking out the Almaville West Side corridor for a sewer system at some point in the not-too-distant future, how do you feel about all that coming in together, sort of combined with the expenses of all that, I guess?
Sure. Well, from an expense standpoint, obviously, it's relatively minimal for the acquisition of the easements that are necessary to get the sewer out there. Of course, Army Corps could change that, but you've heard the estimates. However, from a resource perspective, We've got, I think, about 120 easements to acquire out there on the, is it about 120 that we have going out to for the Linwood project?
I think that's right.
Linwood, yes.
Yeah.
I was like, not on this one, but.
So it's about 120. So we've got our work cut out for us, and the workload is pretty intense for that project. Less of an easement acquisition out here, but it is going to put additional workload, obviously, on us. We'd want to evaluate that if so approved, and if we needed to bring in temporary resources to assist us through this project, CEI or whatever it may be, we'd probably want to look at that.
We're already in acquisition phase, or at least playing out the Elmville roadway. Do you have rough timeline? I've heard a couple things, right? 2 years, 15 years. I've heard several things about the build out, but what is the timeline for the town's effort of, is that gonna, how is it gonna dovetail with what we're doing at Elmville Road from a timeline perspective? I'm thinking about more of the staff's workload.
Yep. Yeah, I think we got about a 2-year project. I have utilities here, right?
Right here.
Okay, so if I could, I'd like Mark to
Yeah.
address that. I
Yeah.
think he'd probably be more appropriate to talk about the timeline with the 2 projects going on.
Hey, Mark.
Mark Parker, Assistant Utilities Director. Steve, are you asking about the easement acquisition timeline for
Right.
Linwood?
Well, I'm just asking if, with that ongoing and starting already,
Yes,
if
sir.
this were to get approved and continue on down its path, obviously, there's gonna be some overlap of, you're gonna have a lot of your staff focused on the Linwood project and then this one right behind it or running at the same time. How is that gonna impact your staff and your workload?
It's going to be significant. Because right now, we're just beginning the initial stages of easement acquisition for Linwood right now. And that count is now up around 130 easements, is where we're at. Now, on this job with the Mona Road, we've got to restart the design. So the design's gonna delay the timeline a little bit. Once we get that figured out with us and CUD on the water, sewer, and gas, then we'll start down the path of easement acquisition. So probably about, I would guess about halfway through the process of getting the easements for Linwood, the Mona Road job is going to kick off as far as easement acquisition goes.
Do you feel like you guys can handle it, or like he said, do you think we'll have to bring in additional CEI or assistance?
We're as far as CEI, yes. As far as construction inspection, we're gonna probably use CEI on Linwood since it's the bigger job. I think my staff can handle this one. Of course, there's a couple lift stations in this one that we'll use some of the staff from the sewer plant as well to inspect that. So I guess it will kind of be flipped. CEI will be Linwood and organic staff will be for Mona Road.
How are we getting the sewer line from across 840?
There's already 2 dry casings underneath 840 that are just north of the intersection. One casing will be used for the sewer force main, the other casing will be used for the high pressure gas.
Fortunately, the foresight to sleeve it was there.
That was smart.
That's,
Okay.
okay, thanks, sir.
Thank you. Go ahead, David. Do you have any, are you good?
Unless,
Is anybody?
No.
Let's move on to Jeff, if you'll talk to us a little bit about the agreement.
Well, between Dave, Kevin, and Mark, it's about all covered.
Are you good?
They're all attorneys.
So, yeah, unless you have any questions, you know, for the purpose of planning commission, it's obviously going to be a lot more questions in council session because they're the ones actually signing the agreement. But for plan of services, I believe they've kind of covered the how and when and or what. But if you have any questions on that, I can answer that. But I think Kevin did a good job summarizing what we're annexing and how we're getting the services out there. And so,
And you're comfortable with the agreement that you've been involved with, the town's been involved with as far as the sewer agreement?
yes, we've got an agreement that we're going to present. Well, we had there before you, obviously, and then we'll see how council feels about it. Obviously, my my client, how they feel. But we've worked on negotiated for about, I don't know, 6 months, something like that. And so we believe we've got something that the council can at least consider.
So you're not anticipating any changes to this except for if there's a council request?
That's right.
No further changes until council reviews?
That's correct.
Okay. And I'm assuming Hillwood feels the same way, which we'll ask them probably shortly.
Okay. All right. We do have I'm assuming we have representatives or a representative from Hillwood here. We think the council, I'm sorry, Old Life Commission may have some questions, so if I could have somebody come up and give us your name and address, please.
Good evening, Paul Ranke with Hillwood, 6410 Poplar Avenue. Appreciate your time this evening. I think you guys have done a great job covering everything. Really, this is picking up where we left off in May when we were here before you, and there was a lot of really good discussion then about the project, this being the right area for this type of use and so forth. And the two main takeaways that we walked out of the room with that night in May really was, hey, get this utility agreement done, and the town needed some time to figure out plan of services. Both of those things are there, which is why we're confident to be in front of you here again tonight. But as Kevin mentioned, really the plan has not changed. The context of the plan has not changed. We've just simplified it and reduced it to focus on contiguous annexation, which is our intent. We have no intent of non-contiguous annexation. There's a lot of red tape that goes into that, referendums and et cetera. So we're focused on contiguous annexation. I did a great job of explaining the purpose of that earlier. So for us tonight, really, I just wanted to reiterate that back in May, we had a lot of conversations too about our level of commitment, and that is unchanged. If anything, it's probably strengthened because of the time and resources that we've put into this since then. So I'm going to keep it short and sweet like that. We have many members of our team here tonight that can probably better answer maybe any technical questions you have, from the economic impact analysis to engineering or legal, but we're here to answer any questions you might have, and I'll leave it at that.
Well, I think there were some questions up here concerning the economics behind it, because there was, what the town potentially would invest versus what's the return. So I'm interested to hear someone speak to the economic impact that you're suggesting for this project.
Absolutely. Lana?
Could you give us your name and address, please?
Sure. My name is Lana Suit. The address is 97 Directors Row, Jackson, Tennessee. Is there any specific questions that you have about the analysis?
I think it would be, we're looking at it, but you've got a lot of folks here and people at home that are looking at that. So I think if you could just walk us through that.
Sure. A question. They have the full analysis? Do they have it, or should we provide that, or? Sure. I'll ask. I didn't know how much of the information that you had received about the analysis. I know you had the one-page summary because that was a part of the packet.
I think that's all we have.
All we were given was the one-page summary.
Well, you'll be happy to know that you have the most important numbers before you, but because it is several pages of numbers, so it is a little dense to get through. So let's just talk about the impact, and we'll look at the summary, but there's a few key things that I would like to talk about as well. We looked at this as a build-out over that 15-year period, but we looked at a 25-year period so that we could see what it looked like after everything was fully built out after 10 years of operation. So the numbers here don't necessarily line up exactly with the way the property is annexed and what you're talking about tonight, because you have to think about it. We were looking about it as an entire project. So the numbers that I give you are at full build-out, what that looks like annually. But we can go back, after I saw the changes that had come about as far as the way that the property was going to be annexed. I dug in today and got a couple of other numbers that I would like to share with you this evening. But the first number that you see there on the annual impact is $1.3 billion. And when you see that number, you go, wow, that's a really big number. What does that mean? But really, that number is just the total dollars that flow through the local economy over the course of a year. So this is the output from the industry that are located there. This is the spending of wages. This is the supplier activity. So there's a lot of things that go into that number. So just wanted to mention what that meant, because a lot of people go, wow, that's a big number. The next thing that you see are the jobs supported, the direct and the indirect. Again, that looks like a huge amount of employees, but you have to remember the size of this complex when it's fully built out. It'll have somewhere between 2,500 and 3,000 employees on that campus. The rest of those will be indirect jobs that are supported not just in Smyrna, but in all of Rutherford County. And so those are suppliers and could be contractors that operate, trucking, all different types of activity that support the operations and the downstream spending from the activity that goes on at the campus. So that number looks large, but it is confined to Rutherford County. Indirect sales and property tax, that's a number that we know that we look at based on all the activity and the spending, basically of the wages. Those are generated. Those are a little harder to track because those don't come into you directly from this property or from an activity that you can track. But we do know historically in Rutherford County how much other local tax you receive based on how much sales tax is generated. So that number is just a placeholder there for some indirect. One that's important that I'd like to look at is the direct sales tax. Now, in the first part of this, there's not any commercial activity there. No retail or hotel development. That's down the road. But in this first phase, you really wouldn't realize that directly. But after year 10, when some of the other commercial activity is introduced, then the city will actually be capturing sales tax revenue from those operations. And so that number of $2 million is what it looks like when it's fully built out and everything is fully operational. The city would realize roughly $2 million annually in sales tax. So that's money, you know how that's spent and where that goes into the general fund. So just a little information there.
So are you suggesting that's going to be from the C2 component of this? Is that where your I guess thank you, the sales tax, but the brunt of it or the majority of it's going to come from once the C2 is developed?
Yes, that's
Yeah,
correct.
because you wouldn't think that industrial would historically generate
That's correct. That's why I said it
sales
would be
tax.
after year 10. It would be in what I would be now calling phase 2 of the
Okay.
development, to year 10 and beyond.
And that leads into a question I had too, Tim. You mentioned the commercial part would come later. Can you guess how much later? Because that's a tax revenue for us,
I'm going to let Paul address
right?
that.
Paul,
Right.
can you tell them?
I'll probably get letting the cat out of the bag here.
No, you're fine. Good question, Mark. So the timing of the commercial piece is really going to be triggered by the utility extensions, right? Getting utilities up into that area will trigger the demand for that to be developed for commercial uses. So we're conservatively projecting, like Lana said, 10 years from now, from project start. But utilities will be brought there much quicker than that. And so there's a chance that that could come online much faster than 10 years.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
So that I understand, so when we're looking at this one-page summary, we've got annual impact, which is qualified by at full operation. Is that full operation starting year 10, or is that, because obviously if you just do the math, for example, the indirect sales tax, right, it's only at 12.4 million annually. It only takes 8 years to get to 107 million. So what about the other 17 years, right? So that, what's the logic behind that?
There is actually a build-out phase over that as well. It wouldn't all come in year 10. It would be phased in over another, I believe, 6 years, something like 5 years. I think it's 15 until everything is fully built out.
Gotcha, okay.
really, I'll mention the hotel, but that's not really a hotel tax. It's not really something that's of great interest tonight. Again, that's down the road after year 10. But those are actually direct dollars that come to the city, or excuse me, the town of Smyrna. But one that's most important is at the bottom of the page, and maybe I should have started at the bottom and worked my way to the top. But the property tax is the one that's really important, because those are really the ones that offset the services that have been talked about tonight. And annually, when it's fully built out, it will produce roughly $704,000 in taxes annually. Right now, that property, of course, for the city, town of Smyrna is non-existent because it's not a part of the city. But when it is annexed and everything is fully developed, you're looking at roughly $700,000, a little more, each year in property tax. So that goes a long way in providing and offsetting those costs of services. And when you couple that with the direct sales tax, you can see that now those numbers are getting pretty significant in what the city would realize when this is fully built out. So I'll stop there. I've talked a lot. You can see that the next one looks over the 20-year period of time, the 25-year period. And one thing that I'll mention about the 25-year impact, that actually is not taking 1 year at full build out and multiplying by 25. This actually starts from year 1 when the first building is constructed, and it's a cumulative total over that 25-year period. So it is a conservative number based on the 15-year build out.
So really, that annual impact is really kind of the number at year 15.
That's correct.
Okay, anything else?
On the second phase, the larger phase, I forget how much of that was industrial, how much is that commercial percentages?
You're referencing the future eastern portion? That's all industrial.
Okay, so and that's what's factored into these numbers here?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Other questions?
Any other questions concerning economics? Thank you.
So one of the benefits, corollary benefits of this is it opens up the east side of West Jefferson in 840. Is there any interest that's been indicated in?
I mean, there's a couple other developers looking at kind of that northern, in this immediate area, or more of an industrial type development. As far as along Jefferson Pike, along Mona Road, we've not had anyone approach us in that area at this time.
And our vision for that area is industrial primarily?
I think certainly more commercial near the interchanges, the retail and the hotels and things like that. And I think in some areas you may end up with some, could potentially, depending on how things build out, you could have some residential in that area, but I think the majority of that would be non-residential, I think, in some nature.
Do you feel that industrial as drawn here and as what we're looking at is appropriate?
I think, yeah, this proposal, it matches our land use plan for that area. You're near a NASCAR track and a lot of industrial area on the Wilson County side of the line. I mean, I think it makes sense from the land use plan standpoint, for sure.
And it's just kind of out of the frame here where what you're referring to as far as the industrial that's already out there. I think several of us at one point in time have gone out there and
Sure.
and looked at the industrial that's already out there. It's a big complex.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, what Wilson County has done all the way down to Highway 109, pretty much.
Pretty much,
it
with the track.
It's the same exact design for.
Well, the 840 corridor.
For many miles.
Yeah, the 840 corridor is primarily an industrial corridor.
Yeah.
Charles, and to your point, with those sleeves under 840 and with utilities going in, I would be surprised if it didn't develop,
Sooner rather than later.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the expense that this developer is looking to lay out to get sewer and utilities to their property, there's probably not a lot of developers that would be willing to take that on. So there's probably quite a few folks watching this to see when it's gonna be there, so they can take advantage of it as well, I'm assuming.
May I ask Paul another question? I understand that, well, another voice in the room obviously are the county citizens that live in and around the area here. In regards to this specific west area, how have the conversations been with the community out there? And have there been agreements made outside of anything that we're seeing today in regards to the development?
Sure, yeah. Appreciate the question. So as was mentioned, I think Dave mentioned earlier, our pursuit of zoning in the county, and like we would normally do with any project of this size, is a good level of community engagement and involvement. So up to this point, we've hosted 3 neighborhood meetings. We've had a number of individual conversations with folks in this area. As it relates specifically to this western tract, we haven't gotten we haven't received any comments or concerns specifically to this tract. Now, the eastern tract, there's still some work to be done there to make sure that we're being good neighbors as far as layout of buildings and setbacks and buffers, and we'll continue to work on that. But for this western piece, we haven't received any concerns yet.
Okay.
Well, and I think, Matt, to your point, and Paul, you touched on it, what's going to be important is making sure that we have buffers that are, as we have, regs in place and for the buffers when you're going from industrial to a residential. Then I think the second one is traffic, and if I'm understanding correctly, the heavy traffic that would be associated with this is going to be routed to Bill France, not Mona.
Yes,
Correct?
that's correct.
I will state just one other thing, because we haven't specifically talked about traffic too much yet, but traffic studies would be required at the site plan stage. And so there's certainly, we would expect at some point there's going to be improvements required, signals, whatnot, along Bill France, things like that. And so they're well aware of it. We've talked to them about that already. I just want to bring that to the commission's attention. Certainly, we would anticipate, if this is approved, there would be, those studies would be done, and there would be some improvements made within Mona Road, or I mentioned the new roadway, the parallel kind of a frontage road type concept along 840, as well as within Bill France as well. So
I did have a conversation with our county commissioner, Rick Hall, who represents this area, and I think he had heard from quite a few of the neighbors, and I think what Paul has stated is pretty much in line with what I heard from Rick. The eastern piece, there's some discussion about where buildings are going to be located and property contiguously, how close to their property it's going to be, that kind of thing. But on this western side, there wasn't a lot of discussion. I did look at the concept that was in the packet, and obviously it's a concept, it's not the site plan, but it does, initially they've got 50-foot buffers, they've got a lot of the things that we would expect to see in a site plan. So that, all of those kind of issues, buffering and things like open space and aesthetics, that'll all be site plan conversations that we'll
They will be site
address.
plan conversations, and I wanted to bring that up because we don't normally do any approvals on concepts, right? So we've got a site plan to look at if and when this goes through.
Right.
That'll come later, but to Steve's point, I've heard from some folks. I know that Rick has, and I saw Rick a while ago, he told me he had. You've obviously talked to Rick, and so specifically the Anglers Retreat subdivision, you guys have talked to them, I know, there's been some dialogue. And I think I'd like to make sure that we are, if we do anything here, that we make sure that we're good neighbors to them. I don't know about having a warehouse 50 feet from me, or the noise pollution, the light pollution, all those things that come with shipping and containing and so forth. So I'd really like for when you guys do a site plan to consider that more so than what you might expect us to look at and approve. In other words, is 50 feet enough? I don't know. If it's 100 feet, if it's a pocket park, We just finished one over there off Jefferson Pike, and they were kind enough to come back in and give us a walking trail to connect to our greenway and so forth. So ideas
We haven't done before.
And I do know that
we get to look at it and decide.
Sure.
In a few days.
I know that we did procure a aerial apparatus at the new fire station at Jefferson Pike to be able to handle that higher elevation. And I believe, I don't know if Chief's here, I think that we got some representative. I think you're definitely capable of handling 60 feet out of that fire station, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Anything else for Paul?
Thank you.
Okay, lots of discussion, good discussion. Any other questions, comments? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Jeff, one question on the motion. Does our motion need to include any discussion around the agreement?
No, the agreement gives you the basis of how you realize that this is why we can annex, because it's
Okay.
part of the planning services, for planning commission. It'd be a totally different ballgame with council.
Yep, understood. I just didn't know. All right, I'll make a motion that we approve the request as presented with staff comments.
I have a motion to approve with staff comments. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Further discussion.
I think it's an opportunity for the council to look at this as well. By doing this, I think the council gets to have some input, and I think that'll be valuable as well, so.
Well, they've had the benefit of listening to a lot of good discussion tonight, and I think there could be some additional, certainly discussion and questions from this.
Right.
Okay, a motion and a second. Anyone else? All those in favor of approving this motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? This motion is approved. Next, under annexation, zoning, and plan of service request, Hamilton Development LLC, West Jefferson Pike and Hickory Grove Road, annexation in C2 and I1 zoning.
Yeah, this is a request that this commission has already acted on in a different form. It's an annexation request for several tracts of land that total about 179, over 179 acres. I think it's about 10 tracts total. Proposed zoning is C2 and I1. And so I kind of go through my comments and then kind of relay why it's in front of you again. Surrounding zoning is the PUD, which is the cornerstone of Smyrna PUD, which is across the street in town, and then RM and CS in Rutherford County. The land use plan for the portion of this request along Jefferson Pike is the 840 Gateway Character Area, which is similar to what we just looked at, which is hospitality, retail, restaurant, high-density residential and industrial warehousing uses. This extends from about 400 feet to about 1,200 feet off of West Jefferson Pike, depending on the location. For the portion of these properties that are south and west of that designation, low-density residential development would be supported. Major thoroughfare plan does designate Jefferson Pike 266 as a principal arterial. The most recent concept plan, there's a parcel that's not in part of this request that they kind of do show a little bit of development on, so, and kind of crossing that, so they'll have to amend their plan to take that out. But that's just a concept plan. It does not, this is not a PUD, this is just a C2 and I1 request. So they'll need to tweak that, obviously, when it comes back to us. But this is the one that was just mentioned, that they are proposing a greenway to be included as a part of their development, primarily on core property that completely surrounds this project, but somewhat as well on their side as well, a little bit, part of it. Again, it's still an annexation as well, and this would be, all services would be provided by the town on this one. That you've already had the public hearing and voted on that already, but nothing's changed with that since you looked at it before. I think that's all I got.
Yeah, as I recall at the commission meeting, Steve asked for additional commercial, and then from viewing the council meeting, I saw that was expanded.
It was. beyond what
that
was
was-
even.
And from a council perspective, it was what you guys asked for, correct?
Yeah, we just added commercial, and that's what this is doing.
Okay.
Just accepted it.
Questions for Kevin or staff on this?
Move to approve staff comments.
Have a motion?
52 lots, 21.04 acres. It is part of the Hidden Springs PRD. We had a few comments. Most of these are standard comments regarding signage. 52 lots, 21 point, and number 7 is a comment from CUD. Comment number 6 regarding the addition of a temporary turnaround at the northern end of Belton Way. They have shown that, so that has been taken care of and can be removed. So with those remaining, as a comment from CUD. Comment number 6 regarding the addition of a temporary turnaround at the northern end of Belton Way. They have shown that, so that has been taken care of and can be removed. So with those remaining comments,
It's been a long, arduous process. I'm glad to see it coming to a final plat. I do want to applaud the developer as well as the homeowners for staying with it and continuing to work through issues. At times it was easy and at times it was not.
All those in favor of approving this motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? This motion is approved. Next, we are on to site plans.
Tract on the corner of Old Nashville Highway and Rocky Fork Road. Proposed for development with a retail and convenience store with fuel station. One retail suite. Numbers are a little bit different from what you received in your packets last week. The numbers received this week is 1,150, so an increase of 10 square feet for the convenience store, for the retail center rather, and then the convenience store went up to 4,572 square feet of landscaping. Applicant is proposing for about 10,000 square feet, so meeting that requirement. Park required of 45 spaces, and they're showing for 47. And that does require 2 handicap parking spaces, which they are showing for. The landscape plan shows maple trees lining the perimeter of the property along primary materials, and the metal does not exceed 10% of the entire building in order to meet our design review requirements. Additionally, the elevations will need to be revised, tweaked a little bit in order to meet the Union Springs overlay architectural requirements. Standard comments, 1 through enough. I wish it can be handled at the grading and drainage plan after it goes through planning commission. So as a result of that, staff did feel confident enough to remove comment number 1. Comment numbers 2 and 3 are both utilities comments that will remain at this time. Let utilities revise those as needed. Number 4, electric transformers, utility pads, water meters, gas meters, and electric meters are required to be screened from public.
it's in that, right here.
It's in that.
If I can get my,
Yep,
right
that little
in
area
there, right there.
So, as a result, that comment will remain. Comment number 5, the sidewalks adjacent to the parking stalls are required to be 7 feet wide to accommodate a vehicle overhang. A developer has requested this requirement to be waived. We will stop 2 foot off the 5-foot sidewalk so that the cars will not overhang onto the 5-foot sidewalk. This property, for reference, is about 130 to 140 feet in depth, so it is rather narrow site. By the time you factor in additional parking, drive aisles, and the building itself starts to fill up the space. The submitted plan does not meet those requirements with regards to the requirement of landscape around the foundation of the building. The developer has requested this requirement to be waived. The reason is this property causes a geometric hardship because it is so shallow in depth. The building being shown is 40 foot in depth with no room to spare. Cutting down 3 foot to allow for a 3-foot foundation planting strip will cause severe hardship on the interior layout of the building. For a solution to this issue, we are showing in number 7, they were missing out on the capping around the rear of the building. It was shown on the other 3 sides. They have shown that accordingly, so comment number 7 can be removed. The building, number 8, the building architectural elevations do not meet requirements of the Union Springs overlay with regards to the rear facade. The facade of the building is required to be divided into distinct sections, no more than 40 feet in width, and each section taller than it is shown on the other 2. Dress it up a little bit so it doesn't look as much like the rear of a building. So that is behind comment number 8. And then comment number 9, The materials didn't match what was the materials shown on the building, on the canopy. They have revised that accordingly, so comment number 9 can be removed as well at this time. So with that, we had staff comments 1, 7, and 9 all removed, and staff does.
Questions from Mitch on this?
The rear buffering, I realize that this technically butts C2.
Correct.
But it is a campground with people camping almost right up to the property line. They're showing a 5-foot landscape strip is all they're showing, and about 6 or 8 trees along the back there. Does that meet our buffering requirements because it's C2?
It is C2, abutting C2. In theory, you wouldn't necessarily need a buffer per se.
It just goes down the hill from the old Nashville Highway.
Yeah, you can, the picture on the screen there, you can see how close the campers are to the property line.
Are they proposing a fence in addition to landscaping?
No.
They're not proposing a fence, no.
Well, if you put a fence up, if you did, they're gonna want a gate.
Yeah.
You know, not used there. Okay.
So the reason behind the request for the sidewalk and the, what was the other, the landscaping was basically because it's going to reduce the square footage of the store, correct?
Correct.
I don't know that I have a problem with it, but I just gotta ask the question. The upper left corner of the property has a left and right turn going across a 5-lane. I know they can go out to the median and continue up the hill, but that's all.
Sidewalks put in and everything, that curb cut was put in. This is actually a relocation of that to be further away. We were trying to get it as far away from the intersection as possible, and that's why it's where it's at. So I think Mr. King looked at it as kind of the best option.
He was
to look
okay
at.
with that, I guess.
Yes, he was okay with it as shown, yes.
Hey Mitch, what's the landscape plan, the back of the building go along there, all that, just white, is that concrete or gravel or?
You're looking at the site plan page, not the landscape plan page up here. So in your plans up there, you do have landscape plan
It's
that
like
does show
the
those
fifth
trees, but-
sheet
Yeah.
of the site, this show. It is, like Mr. Sullivan said, there's several trees there, but they're not evergreen trees.
You get any calls from the campground owners?
No.
So the waivers they requested is the sidewalk, the foundation, foliage or planting. What else?
That's it, those are the two.
Thought there was something related to the canopy.
No, elevations are all good at this time. Well, for staff level at least.
Okay.
We
Yeah.
can still work on some like the rear elevation, but
yeah.
it was not a waiver per se.
Yeah, the canopy elevations and the main building elevations, they were using different colors of brick and whatever, and we asked them to match it, and that's what they've got that fixed, so that's not an issue.
So all elevations meet design review.
It meets design review. The rear of the elevations are, we felt like there could be some work done, because they're supposed to kind of break it up, add some awnings or windows or something to kind of break up, just to just have a blank wall.
And that's staff's recommendation as far as the design goes.
Right,
Yes.
correct.
Okay.
If you don't like what they've done now, what would you be asking them to do?
That's what I said, we looked at basically, they kind of just put the thin kind of columns in. Again, kind of breaking it up more so, widen those columns out, add some awnings over your back doors,
Create some depth.
create some
somewhere.
depth,
Yeah.
maybe with some windows or some things like that.
Well, I mean, I know by zone it's that, but-
There's some good examples in other communities around us that have that kind of, what we were thinking in our heads, that we would be happy to meet with them to talk about directly if they have some questions.
I'm sorry, repeat all that.
Yeah, there's some good examples of what we're talking about in some of the other communities around us that have had overlays longer than we have, that sort of thing, that we would be happy to meet with and the developer, the engineer, kind of go over that with them, kind of give them some pictures of what we're talking about, not just having verbal.
And this falls within the overlay, right?
Correct.
I'm just concerned about doing a lot of waivers in lieu of, especially if it's in an overlay area.
Could you go through the sidewalk one more time?
Yeah, so the sidewalk, the overlay requires 7 feet. To help with that, due to the width, depth of the site, they are showing wheel stops, so prevents that vehicle from overhanging onto that sidewalk, that extra distance, to get it back off the sidewalk, so you don't have pedestrians walking in the middle of
So
bumpers.
we're staying at 5 feet or 7 feet on the sidewalk?
It's 5 feet still, I believe.
It would be a 5-foot sidewalk. The idea behind it is you want to have at least 5 foot. If you don't have the wheel stops, you have the vehicles overhanging the sidewalk a couple feet. You want to have at least 5 feet for ADA purposes, ADA access along the sidewalk.
And you're not shrinking the right-of-way for vehicles by adding those wheel stops and pushing the vehicles out into the...
Because they're still, because your bumper, you still have a little bit of space till that wheel hits it anyways.
Yeah.
It really, to me, it doesn't seem a lot different,
Yeah.
right? You might as well just extend the sidewalk out to where the stops would have been, and you're still in the same spot. But whichever.
It does, what it does though is it pushes your 19-foot sidewalk 2 foot into the drive aisle and that sort of thing. So it does affect that. And that's why they've asked for it.
Got it.
And then 3 foot, the landscape.
Kevin, with the topo that this property has, and it kind of slants back towards the campground as we talked, would they have to raise this, this elevation up? Dirt, would they have to haul dirt in or what? Because if you're pulling out onto that highway and you're sitting at a slant like this, is that automobile going to be level in order to pull out onto the highway, or are they going to be coming off the slope?
I mean, the grading, what they're showing is relatively, within the parking lot is relatively level. It slopes back towards the back and it slopes towards Rocky Fork Road as far as, but it looks like they would be bringing in, I don't know, the existing grades. If I can find the topo numbers, yeah. Roughly, it looks like about a foot or so. Your existing grades are like at 582 or so at the road. They're gonna be.
So
they'll be
flat enough to
583.
make an exit, flat enough to make a safe exit?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, there's not an issue there as far as
Okay.
real slope and an exit or anything like that.
Yeah, they're showing the sidewalk at Old Nashville Highway roughly 583, and the front of the building is 581 and a half, so it's only a foot and a half from Old Nashville Highway to the front of the building. And it drops 6 or 7 more feet to the back.
Yeah.
but-
Yeah, once you get behind the building, it drops about 5 or 6 feet, depending on the location, from the back of the building to the property line.
Also, I guess where the canopy is, it looks like it's somewhat sloped as well. It's 2-foot drop from one side of the canopy to the other.
Yeah.
And can you describe the drainage again? I mean, with the slope and the slant that's being described here, it seems as though all that water's gonna go right into the campground. Is that
So-
not what you guys saw when you went out there?
They are showing pervious pavers out there, underground detention. Based on what they're showing with their slopes, all of that, or most of it rather, should be directed toward those pervious pavers to be contained underground. As far as the actual terminology of flow and such, how that works, that's probably a better question for Public Works to answer on that one, but based on discussions with them today, they felt like what is remaining out there still today is quite marginal as far as something that can definitely be worked through.
And I think a lot of that canopy area that does slope towards Rocky Fork Road, obviously they're looking to catch that. There's a pipe there that they would have a couple of grates that they would catch that and kind of go underneath and head back towards the drainage system at Old Nashville Highway. It's part of that canopy area. Engineers here, if you have any questions, if you think they may have. I don't know if they told us or not. I know his engineer's here. If you wanted to ask them anything.
Does anybody from the commission have anything for the engineer? All right, any other questions then for staff? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve the staff comments.
Okay, and I think within the motion, Mitch is asking specifically for directions in.
Which
within-
waivers?
With or without the waivers, yeah.
Yeah, with or without the waivers.
Yeah.
I would recommend without, well,
Okay, you can make that in your motion if that's how you feel.
Could you review the waivers one more time?
Yeah, so there's two waivers that are being requested. The first one being the sidewalk widths from 7 feet as stated in the overlay to 5 feet. And then the other one being the landscaping, foundation planting around the building.
Ken, is your motion still to approve with staff comments without the waivers?
yep.
Okay. I have a motion to approve with staff comments without the waivers. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Further discussion? All those in favor of approving? Opposed? This motion is approved. Under site plans, we have In-N-Out Burger, 999 Industrial Boulevard, owner, developer, In-N-Out Burger.
999 Industrial Boulevard. This is the existing site of Hickory Falls. The proposed building, existing building rather, would be proposed to be demolished and site reconfigured with a drive-through. Two drive-through lanes are shown with the ability to queue approximately 33 vehicles. The site layout shows a utilization of the existing access points with one off of Industrial Boulevard and one off of Team Boulevard. Both of these locations today are full ingress and egress points with no limited turning motions. Staff does have concerns regarding the overall traffic flow to access this site and in the immediate vicinity. The recently approved SS4A plan identified this location as an area to require further study for safety and pedestrian improvements. Vehicular use here in the site, just over 1 acre is proposed, and that would require 4,456 square feet of landscaping. The applicant is proposing for 15,602 square feet. Total parking required of 49 spaces, and they're showing for 68. Last when packets went out, there were 63, so we have 68 now as part of this plan. Handicap parking requirement is 3 spaces, and they're showing for those 3 spaces as well. The landscape plan shows a variety of shrubbery and trees lining both road frontages of Industrial Boulevard and Team Boulevard. Additional trees and shrubs are shown lining the western and southwestern property lines. Notable trees on the landscape plan include 2 variations of palm trees. Staff does have concerns of the palm trees and their ability to survive in this climate zone found here in Middle Tennessee region. Architectural elevations show the building to be finished with mixture of EIFS, brick, and glazing. Overall elevations for the building show a finished percentage of 54.74% EIFS, 33.48% brick, and 6.52% glazing. Design review does require a minimum of 50% of the entire building to be finished with primary materials. As designed, this building is approximately 40% primary materials. Additionally, design review requires at least 75% primary materials for any wall facade visible from a public street, and none of the elevations shown meet that requirement as presented tonight. Standard comments 1 through 7 all remain at this time. Staff comment 1, we asked them to coordinate the construction of the modifications to the access to Team Boulevard with the adjoining property owner. Comment number 2, a plat will be required to dedicate public right-of-way along Industrial Boulevard to show a sidewalk completely within the public right-of-way. They have shown that on the plans. More or less, that's going to remain as a comment, letting them know that a plat will still be required if this is approved here tonight. Comment number 3, 4, and 5 have all been addressed sufficiently and can be removed. Comments 6 and 7 are both waiver requests by the applicant. Comment number 6, the architectural elevations do not meet design review. We did ask them please revise that as noted above with the primary materials not meeting our design review requirements. Their waiver request is to leave it as it is presented here tonight. In comment number 7, we asked them to revise the dumpster enclosure to use only primary materials, which would match the building. Stucco is not a primary material. They are requesting to leave it as it is presented here tonight as well, using a mixture of both stucco and brick. Comment number 8, staff has concerns regarding the recommended traffic improvements, as the proposed improvements seem to work to benefit this property but not the area in its entirety. At a minimum, staff recommends relocating the access to Industrial Boulevard to be directly across from Movie Row. The town will be undertaking a study for the area along Industrial Boulevard from the intersection with Sam Ridley Parkway to the town limit, consistent with the recommendation of the Safe Streets for All plan. This study would evaluate all access points on the corridor and make recommendations for improvements. Comment number 9, please verify that the varieties of palm trees shown on the landscape plan will survive in Middle Tennessee's plant hardiness zone. Staff does not believe that these trees will survive. The applicant did respond to that comment. They said they believe it will survive and they will replace whatever tree species that do die as a result of being planted. So with that, we would like that comment to remain. Number 10, the zoning ordinance and a recorded plat show 2 different minimum building setback lines. The most restrictive shall apply in that instance. The required minimum front building setback line in the C2 district is 35 feet, so the required setback along Industrial Boulevard is 35 feet. We do ask them to show that correctly. As shown, the building is in violation of the zoning ordinance for the setback. The applicant is proposing to request a variance from the Board of Zoning Appeals after approval of the site plan by the Planning Commission. Those variances, we're looking at a overhang for the driveway along Industrial Boulevard, about 10 feet off of the right-of-way. Proposed right-of-way is what they're showing for that drive-through, and the building itself sitting about 27 foot off of the proposed right-of-way line. So just to give you an idea of what the setback variance request they would be seeking looks like. So all that to be said, comments 3, 4, 5 have all been addressed, and the remainder of the comments will remain. Staff does recommend denial due to the list of those outstanding comments and then the concerns that we do have about those comments.
Questions for Mitch on this?
Mitch, do you know why they do not wish to meet design review on?
I'm going to defer to the applicant on that, to speak on that, and let them let you know why.
I mean, I can tell you what they told us is this is a little bit of an upgrade from what they typically, what their initial plan was, but that this is the building they build and this is their standard and this is what they want to build. So that they,
Okay.
that's what they told us. I mean, that their owner, this is her, she loves the building and she loves the design of the building and she doesn't want to change it. So that's, again, it is more brick than what they initially showed us, but it still does not meet design review.
Well, I understand branding, I do. I understand branding all across the country. People have a certain look that they're more of a West Coast business, and they're relocating here. I think the owners relocated into Franklin area, and they want to make a go of it here. My issue with the design review is there's anything that's fallen under design review in the past, we've made every entity that came into that area meet it. And it's not that I don't understand branding here, but I do understand that we've been very consistent making every other business work with our design review. So that's kind of the issue personally that I have. And I will say, there's been a lot of comments on on this from every angle you can look at anymore. I mean, social media, and so forth. The fact is that Hickory Falls, I don't know, I don't think they plan to stay in business. Let me just say that. I don't know when that looks like for them, and I don't want to speak for them. And I believe this company has bought that property. Am I correct? So they're now leasing the property back from the In-N-Out ownership. And at some point, they're going to leave. At some point, they're going to. And so I think as a Smyrna resident, I can speak for a lot of Smyrna residents, that to them, it's not a great idea. We all love Hickory Falls and always have. That said, Hickory Falls is making the decision to probably close shop and retire. And I don't blame anybody for wanting to do that. Another issue I have is we have seen in that pocket a traffic quagmire. And that's got to be fixed in some way. I don't care who takes that building over or who builds a new building there. And as a town, we have a responsibility to answer some of that as well. I mean, it's not just whoever that's going to put a building on that lot. It's not just their issue. It's our issue. And so aligning that across from Movie Row seems to make sense. My question would be, is that something we could potentially see a signal at? Potentially.
Well, I mean, I think that potentially, I guess, yes. What we would recommend, and Mr. Rose is here and he can speak to this a little bit, but we're looking at basically from Sam Ridley to the town limits along Industrial Boulevard, looking at everything. What needs to be done? Obviously, it's going to focus primarily on from Sam Ridley to roughly the main signal that goes into the town park development there. It's where the majority of the issues are. Access management, signalization, all those things come into play.
They have to be looked at.
Yeah.
You try to take a left coming out of Movie Row today. It's not going to happen.
I think Team Boulevard's worse.
Both of them.
Right behind
Yeah,
Starbucks
so
there is
we have to
probably one of
be-
the worst intersections in the town.
We have to be cognizant of that, whether this happens or not. We've got to do something over there.
Right, and that's what
Yeah.
we're looking, again, we're looking to have someone come on, bringing someone on board.
Yeah, I've talked to Dave a little bit about it, and I know that's
Right,
the plan, but I just think that's paramount. That road and that backup anymore, when you get ITS, maybe that'll change a little bit. You can control that lighting, signaling a little bit at the main intersection, but right now, it's just, it's a big mess. And so that's not a knock on In-N-Out and their application here. That's not what I'm trying to say. But what I'm saying is, it's time to look at that whole pocket right there. And I'm glad we're getting ready to do that.
The memorandum that we have, this packet, this is
Some traffic design.
traffic design
Yeah.
to Charles that the town is looking at doing? That's what this is
No,
representing?
that is, we talked with In-N-Out about, and asked them to bring forth some ideas on some solutions, and my battery's going low. And that was some of the recommendations that they made. We reviewed those, and we feel like it would be best if we look at it globally, because we think those improvements probably do help them, but not necessarily everybody, and so we want to be sure it affects, we look at something that helps everyone.
Okay.
And so, that's why we wanted to get kind of an independent look.
Yeah, when I looked through that, I just saw there were quite a few different options, and some of them were right turns only, some of them were
Yeah.
medians, some of them were not many changes at all. So I wasn't real sure what the
Yeah,
intent
there's
was.
several ideas
Yeah,
there.
yeah, and I was like, some of these might help, and some of these might not do a thing, right?
Right. And that's, again, we wanted to make sure that we looked at it. We want to make sure, and naturally, they're looking at their site, and we want to look at the whole area and make sure we've looked at the whole area and make it work for the whole area, safety for everyone in that area, not just their site. So
So we passed the current design review about 2 years ago, is that right, Kevin?
I went back and looked because I couldn't remember myself. It was about a little over 4 years ago, June of '21.
Since we passed that, I know specifically along the Sam Davis corridor, but we have not,
Sam Ridley.
Sam Ridley corridor, we have not wavered on the requirements.
No, we've required 75%.
So all of those restaurants, McDonald's and Redstone Financial and Cane's and Whataburger and Andy's,
Sprouts that just got approved last month.
Stewart's Landing Design, all of those
City
are required
Barbecue, all
to
those.
meet that.
That's correct.
Not trying to be argumentative, but they have branding as well. So-
Yeah, no, good point, but I understand where they're coming from as well. That's their
I
brand.
went by-
and It doesn't hurt to ask us.
I went by the
one in Murfreesboro?
The one in Murfreesboro. And they're using, I think, kind of the white
brick.
I don't know what it's called, Coronado stone wire cut brick maybe. They're using that in their design, and that building looks very similar to, I think, what they're proposing for Smyrna. I did reach out to Murfreesboro Planning and to Mayor McFarland and ask about their percentages, and they did grant them a waiver. They were a little below their design for the avenues. But the percentages that Murfreesboro said they received versus the percentage of what we're seeing are a little different. Ours are a little lower. But just so you know that, the building in Murfreesboro is very similar to brick content and design to what they're designing here. But
Mitch, remind me how short they are on percentages.
Quite significantly.
About 35%.
Yeah.
they're 35% short, or they're at 35? Well,
Well,
I guess it's 70, so.
They're about 40%.
yeah.
They're 40% brick and glass, and we require 75% brick, stone, and glass. Because all four sides of this are going to be visible from a public street, so the 50% rule of the whole building really doesn't apply here because everything's visible from a public street, so.
You know, we were out at ICSC. I actually went to their restaurant in the Link District in Las Vegas, and it's not EFS. So I don't know what it is. It's painted brick block something, but and it's sort of a storefront. It's not a freestanding restaurant. But I know they can do it. I hope they can do it because I'd love to see them come. But personally, I think when we waive one, we are setting a precedent for anybody else that comes in here wanting a waiver of any kind on the next building and the next building and the next building. So I hope they understand my stance on this is the same as staff's. I would not recommend approval until they can meet our design review. That's just me.
I've had some very pointed conversations with other developers about this same conversation. And honestly, if I supported this, I would probably get some phone calls in the next 24 hours because I was so adamant with some other developers. So I agree with you, Mark, and I think it has to meet design review.
Yeah.
Well, and from a safety standpoint, Mark, your comments were really good. Y'all know what Chick-fil-A is for traffic. 10 times that for what we're gonna have here. I've seen it many a times.
Well, you know.
So.
You've lived there.
I have. And
We just want to get it right.
it's gonna be intense, and in that location, there's gonna have to be traffic study, there's gonna have to be traffic lights, because it's, I've seen many a times, cars 40 deep, waiting in the drive-through. It's good food, and the people are gonna like it, but from a safety standpoint, it's gonna be difficult to handle that location.
Yeah.
In terms of the global traffic study, that's something that we've initiated?
We have not initiated the study yet. We've initiated bringing someone on board. I believe Mr. Rose is going to have that before council at the October agenda is the plan. A contract with someone. We've got someone we're talking with and working through and that sort of thing to be on their workshop agenda for September and a council meeting agenda in October.
Well, I would think that In-N-Out would prefer to have that global study done. It could benefit their property. Whereas if we were to approve something before that was done, we could have a number of unintended consequences that could defeat the overall plan.
In my conversations with them, I think they would not prefer that, but they're here and they might speak to that. But you may want to hear from them, but I know they would like to speak to you. I believe they would prefer an approval with some of the options that they submitted that you have in front of you. But
Okay. Well, I'll do this. If there is a representative from In-N-Out that would like to come and speak to the council, you've heard our concerns. If you give us your name and address, please.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Jeff Bryant. I'm the Senior Development Manager for In-N-Out Burger, who's responsible for all of our Tennessee projects and expansions out here. Our address is 3401 Mallory Lane, Franklin, Tennessee. I hear you. There's a lot of points I'd like to go through. Just to start things off, there's a project description and design information to start with. I think that's in your packet. I've got some extra copies that I'd like to run through. Just a couple of items on it. So the proposed building is a prototypical In-N-Out Burger floor plan. It's a single-story building with exterior ephes, flat roof towers, and a typical exterior architectural core structure. Our prototypical core building structure has been intentionally designed to generate a lot of architectural interest through articulation across multiple planes, massing of different elements and overall proportions at a human scale for our customers' experience. For the exterior elevation design, we have a prototypical white masonry wainscot that was initially proposed for this location, and that would be consistent with the vast majority of our projects, not only within the region, but across our national brand. And, I'm coming to you at the end of 2+ years of discussions through staff, and staff's been amazing to work with, very communicative across multiple departments. We've had a lot of, quality discussions going through. And so we understand, the importance of the request to meet design guidelines and criteria and having a higher percentage of brick detail. That's really atypical for us. But we went through and spent a lot of time internally discussing. We've gone through with our management and back and forth. And, despite these strict guidelines on our elevations and percentages, we've made a rare exception here in order to better meet the city's development code and blend in with the surrounding area design. To that end, we've supplemented and modified our typical building architectural design, elevations, and appearance with numerous non-prototypical design elements to create a unique design specifically for this location. We've got 3D renderings that are in the packet that are pointing out a lot of these special accommodations that have been included for the reference. If you don't have those, I have some extra copies I can provide.
So you're basically, and let me just stop.
Yeah.
You're basically saying, this is what you want to do, and you don't want to do any further, correct? As far as meeting our design review.
We're here to partner within all of our communities. And
Okay.
so in our 76-year history, we've only relocated one restaurant. We've never closed any. As far as the surrounding area,
Are you going to talk
I
about
have- I have
the
some-
restaurants that are surrounding that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
I can probably answer that for you real quick.
Yeah.
A lot of the buildings that you're going to reference came in before there was a zoning ordinance and design review change.
And that's the reason there was one.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank
that
you.
helps.
Yeah, and so I don't think it's going to be to your benefit to discuss what's surrounding it, because as Mark said, that led to us relooking at design review and wanting to do something better for the community.
I understand. Per code, while architectural style may vary, buildings of proposed development shall be compatible with surrounding buildings with regards to massing, scale, proportion of openings, roof types, glazed openings, and degree of detail. And so, I understand that, the surrounding businesses may not be reflective of the current code, but as far as matching and being contiguous with them, I've got a list of 13 different restaurants within less than a half a mile, and a map showing all of their locations in relation to here. So we're not trying to be argumentative. Like I said, we've made
Well,
some.
you kind of
flex-
are.
I mean, it's exactly what you're doing, actually.
Yeah, you kind of are.
Yeah, we're trying to justify. We're not coming in here and, you know,
I mean, anybody that brings 13 restaurants before us is arguing with us that we're wrong about our design review. And so I'm funning with you, honestly,
Yeah.
I am. But Jeff, look, as I said, we changed our ordinance 4 to 5, 6 years ago now, and those surrounding buildings were there prior. But everything we've done since then has been consistent.
Yep.
I can also assure you, if those buildings had to be rebuilt, they would have to meet design review. So the fact that they were
Absolutely.
there is the only reason they're there.
So we can't give you, or I'm not saying this for all the other panel.
Yep.
I don't feel like we can give you a pass because we haven't given anybody else since the design review has changed a pass. Does that make sense?
Yep.
And I don't want to argue about it. So you're reading things to us that we've already actually read.
Sure.
So,
Yeah, and Jeff, did you meet with me a year or two ago?
We did.
And what did I say?
We talked through the, you know,
And I
that
said-
very few variances have
Yeah,
been
and I said
provided and.
it's got to meet design review, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I'm still kind of there.
Yep, I understand. Yeah.
you have a beautiful building. You really do. I mean, I like it. It's a beautiful building, but
We appreciate that. And I know there's been other references to other restaurants that have been built differently in the past. We're in the exact same
There you go
position. You know, so I
You
can
can't let it
certainly
go, can
relate.
you,
And
Jim?
I'm here to try and thread the needle and find something that works for you.
Yeah, I mean,
But
I'm a-
I can tell you, we have not approved or built a building with 75% masonry requirements.
What did you
And-
do on the Las Vegas Strip with the design there?
Yeah, the link that was
No, I
mentioned.
think there's another one that's proposed that may even be on the Strip. I was looking at something that was two-story, it was primary glass and
the
metal.
boulevard. Yeah,
Sorry?
it's a third-story building.
Yeah.
That it's an existing core structure that's already been built, and then we're coming in later on and doing TIs and
It
setting
doesn't look
everything
like
up
that,
there.
does it?
It does not have a drive-through.
It doesn't
It's
look
a
like
very-
that,
It's a
does it?
very unique standalone.
Does it have the EFS on it?
In Vegas, it wouldn't have EFS, but traditional stucco, I'd have to go back and confirm it. It's not
Yeah,
my
I can-
project.
I can pull a picture up if you want to look at it.
I mean, honestly, in my opinion, I just kind of went and looked at the Murfreesboro store. I actually got out and walked around the site. I tried to be objective and say, you know, is there enough brick? Does it look okay? And I mean, the building looks fine, but to me, it doesn't look like much of a difference to just run the brick all the way to the roof and make it a brick building. It's all white. It still would be all white. It doesn't change your awning, your brand, your logo. I've heard that it's a branding, but that's really not part of your logo and your stripes, and, you know, the look of the building really doesn't change significantly, whether it's EFS or brick.
It's not only the look, it's also the maintenance. So we
Brick's
go through.
more harder to maintain than EFS?
Yes, compared to the stucco for our painting. We go through and do as much in-house as possible. So we have a painting team, we have our maintenance team, repair team, and everything along those lines. If we do any patches, repairs, or otherwise, we go through and we paint corner to corner so that you'll never see a patch in any of our buildings. Stucco is something that, you know, the maintenance is something that's very important to us. You know, you can go to any in and out, and it stands above the rest for how well it's maintained, whether the curb appeal, the aesthetics, the landscaping, that's significantly more. Kevin mentioned, I think we're 4 or 5 times the minimum requirements for landscaping. It's really important for us to have a beautiful building and facility and, you know, overall customer experience. And so we go through and repaint our buildings every 3 to 5 years. And we know from our experience, you know, we're proposing EFS as opposed to 3-coat stucco because of the temperature and the weather over here. In, you know, freeze-thaw conditions, 3-coat stucco would not be appropriate compared to EFS.
So what about just brick?
It's just, it's not an aesthetic that we do for our buildings, for our
If you're just
branding,
painting them white,
as well
it's
as
the same process, right? Just paint brick. Okay.
Is this a site build? I mean, you're not bringing this in walls, or are you?
No.
I don't want to say kit, but.
We're building from the ground up.
Okay.
And believe me, I've probably spent most of my time on most of my projects talking about EFS and some of the differences. I know, especially here in the region, there's, back in the late 90s, there's been a lot of poor stucco, poor EFS that was installed, not appropriately maintained. We put this in Colorado, in our cold regions. We know how to maintain it. We bring in contractors that are able to install it and ensure all of the quality on that. And it's the actual EFS texture itself is applied in the field. I know there's concerns with pre-EFS panels that go up. None of that is applicable here for our quality of construction in our buildings.
I know that we met with your group, Tim, you were probably there, at the International Shopping Center Convention in Vegas. And since then, I met with you, I think probably about the same time that Tim did. And I think we all voiced the same concern, right?
Yep. And that was a big part of our support in being able to go back up to management and discuss. Every one of our buildings and elevations is
Now, I got a funny
designed by our
question.
owner.
This is a funny question. This
Yeah.
is a fun one, okay? What palm tree is going to live here?
Yep, so we have some windmill fan palms that we're looking at. And again, we get this question all the time. We get a lot of incredulous looks. We have our in-house landscaping team that we have different cold weather varietals. We've already installed our 4 other projects under construction. We have palm trees. We have some additional area in our property down in Franklin where we installed palm trees a year ago and are still alive. So we are testing. We are making sure that we're able to keep them alive. If we need to replace them,
I was just
we'll-
curious.
We'll probably replace them. But there is a lot more going on, and once we get to actual construction drawings, hopefully through approvals, we will go through and we're looking at alternative options of putting heat strips around the root balls and helping insulate some of the palm trees in the worst of the weather to make sure that they survive.
I was looking just for a fun answer. You went scientific on me.
We spend so much time, effort, and energy in every element, in every part of our business and what we do. We are incredibly intentional about it.
I can see that. I really can. Attention to detail is part of what your brand is. So we're just trying to find a partnership. That's what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
Well, I personally love
Likewise.
In-N-Out. I get animal fries every time I go. I can't wait for you guys to open in Smyrna, but it's got to be brick.
Yeah.
I just can't do it.
And one of the things I'd like to point out is, 2+ years ago when we first met with Kevin and some other members of staff and city management, one of the messages that came through was, the town of Smyrna does not want to be more restrictive than a lot of the areas surrounding us. And it's been brought up, comparisons to Franklin. We were approved with a 0% masonry building down there. We proactively went through and added additional masonry, a wainscot around our drive-through columns in order to better match our corporate facility going in next door. You've mentioned Murfreesboro. Murfreesboro has one of the most restrictive GDO overlays of any project that we've worked on, certainly in the region and across a lot of other regions that I used to work in. And we've come through and we've been able to work with them and come up with a building that's about 50%. That's the highest percentage of brick that has ever been approved. I think, given your comments, this is something that we can take back, and I think we could match Murfreesboro if that's something that's acceptable. The store team, we would go back and do that. It would be above the 50% brick masonry plus the 6 to 8% glazing would get a lot closer to the 75%. But given the unique design of this, or the shape of this parcel, we're at a bit of a disadvantage in terms of every elevation being visible from public roads as everything angles around. And
That's what you
so
want.
on average, we would be in better compliance if one facade needed to be 75%, the rest are 50%. I'm confident at a 50% masonry material plus our glazing that we'd be a heck of a lot closer to that. We would be well above 50%. And that's something that I think we could commit to in terms of the partnership of what we're looking for to be able to come bring this together.
I'm laughing a little bit when you said Franklin and Murfreesboro were very restrictive. You may have a different opinion about Smyrna at this point because, we're being pretty restrictive with you. But I think we've explained the reasons why we are. And so when you say we can get close, I'm like Steve. I mean, close isn't done. And so I'm just asking you to come be a partner with us, but kind of help us do it the way we need to do it.
Yeah. Well, we are certainly doing our best to partner.
I know you.
I mean, at this point, we did go back and we provided some additional elevations. I think that I'm comfortable committing that based on our other approvals that we can get much higher percentages, and I think we could commit to a 50%.
You talk to that team right there, and they're gonna let you know if you made it or not.
But,
Kevin and
but,
Mitch.
but a partnership is mutual.
Yeah.
And so, you know, we're hoping
We're all
we
trying
can
to
work
get to the
together.
same place.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so I think, you know, we've covered a lot of the elevations. The other point that I'd like to point out is, you know, as productive of conversations we've had with staff, I do disagree with the comment of the traffic improvements solely being for the benefit of In-N-Out. So as we've gone through and we've looked at all these intersections, the data and the crash mitigation is within those tables. And we've looked at, as you mentioned, multiple options. There's 5 different ones that are listed in there. And at the end of the day, this has been identified through the City of Smyrna's report as being one of the more challenged intersections. There's a lot of different streets that are in there that cannot be changed, cannot be reoriented. It's difficult. We have spent a lot of hours, and we have our traffic consultants here who've crunched a lot of information, a lot of data. We'd be happy to bring them up to discuss. But at the end of the day, what we've proposed is what we feel is in the best interest of the overall area. Some of the improvements that we're talking about would reduce an equal number of movements, lost movements on both sides of the roads. There's existing businesses on the south side, there's existing businesses on the north side. We're proposing, as what we feel is the most effective traffic mitigation measure, to lose those 3 movements on either side, while still maintaining appropriate circulation, appropriate connectivity to all of the businesses that are still going to be there, you know, and use that. Surprisingly, we didn't expect this. You know, staff gave us a lot of feedback in terms of how many crashes are over there. We've jumped into the data. The most dangerous movement in that area, I believe it's 18 crashes, come from Team South going north across Industrial. 18 of them on that one movement. There's an additional crashes that are lost on the left turn. There's, you know, there's a few crashes across each one of the rest of the movements. But the vast majority in mitigating these changes to the intersections of what we're proposing with option 2B mitigates 29 crashes across the area. And that deals with the angles and the movements.
Okay.
So.
All right.
Thank you, Jeff.
You know, we appreciate it. If there's any other questions, you know, we're here.
Okay.
Appreciate your time.
Okay. We've heard from staff. We've heard from our In-N-Out representative. Are there any other questions or discussion?
I'll make a motion based on staff's recommendation of denial and the lack of meeting our design review that we deny the request.
Okay, I have a motion to deny.
Second.
And a second.
A friendly amendment,
Sure.
and that the project should be on hold until the more global traffic study is completed for.
How long would that take, Kevin?
I don't know. Or defer to Mr. Rose, he's the one who's talked to.
Tom, we want you to give us a date.
Yeah, wait,
Yeah.
hang on just a second.
So currently, we're talking with an engineering consulting company to put together a proposal. They said that they were going to try and get it to me this Friday. I'm going to get it on the next workshop and then approval at the October meeting. It could take at least 2 months for them to at least start to get some initial information after that. If they're able to start pretty quickly, if they have the staff available to start it. So might have some kind of preliminary information in about 3 to 4 months from now, but it's really kind of up to them on the amount of effort and the staff that they have available to jump on right then. I did talk to them about moving forward pretty quickly with it.
All right, so let's work back through this. Let's
Well-
make sure we get it mechanically sound.
Yeah, Jeff's looking at me with 2 square eyes, like, what did you say your motion was? And so,
Well, one, we haven't gotten the second yet, which is good.
I did.
on the
Yeah, you
friendly.
did.
Oh, did
We get
you?
it
On the
set.
friendly?
Yes.
No.
No.
That's what I'm talking about.
The initial motion.
So your initial motion was deny, and then there was a motion about
The motion to deny and then a second. and
But
then
the amendment
Charles
was
has
to,
Amend the denial.
that's not friendly. So, that's completely changed. It's not, if you said approve it.
We'd have to back up the.
Yeah, we have to go, you do a deferral maybe or something like that. But we don't have a second on that unless somebody's going to second the
Quasi-friendly.
the unfriendly amendment. But
Well, if we did a
I just don't think it's
deferral,
proper
we're just
because-
looking at 30 days from
To
now.
do the same thing.
Another deferral and another deferral until we got the traffic results back. I think I'd kind of like to leave my motion alone,
Yeah.
and then we'll take it when they come back to see where we are with the traffic portion of it. I mean, that's going to be a question anyway. So I don't think we have to make it
I still second.
part of the emotion. And you second that?
Yep.
Okay. We'll still look at it, right? We'll still want to know that information.
So tell me where we're at, Jeff.
well, first,
Ready to vote.
as long as you, is there a second to?
Steve
even though I don't-
seconded my motion.
Even though I don't believe it's proper, but is there, if there's not a second, then that dies for lack of a second. And you're back on your.
You're
motion.
asking if there's a second to amending it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I did not hear it. Well, let me just ask, is there, I should ask, correct? Is there a second to amending the original denial?
There
Okay,
you
so
have
that
it.
motion fails.
So we're back to the motion in the second.
That's right.
Okay.
Okay.
I do have one question specific to the traffic study. Just a comment to make sure when they do the study, they're factoring in this establishment's traffic histories. It's not a normal restaurant. It's to the scale of Chick-fil-A, but greater than. So the traffic study needs to incorporate that specific.
Certainly, it will have to take that into account as well as everything else that's around it.
There's further comments about the traffic study, if you would like to hear what's
I
been.
think we're good.
We got a motion and a second.
Yeah,
on the
we
floor.
gotta do this. Okay, so a motion and a second. Any further discussion here? All those in favor of denying this motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? This motion is denied. Okay, new business. We have a site plan, Blakeney Commons Lot 2, Rocky Fork, Elmville Road, Morton Lane, owner, developer, Pilars Investment Group, LLC.
This is a site plan for Blakeney Commons, Lot 2. It is proposed for a convenience commercial development with a fuel center. This is a 6,000 square foot building with potential for 2 tenants in addition to a convenience store. 10 fuel pumps are proposed with the gas station. The 2 access points are shown to access the site, with one on Broadleaf Lane and one off Rocky Fork Almonville Road. Broadleaf Lane provides access to the rear of the Blakeney Commons development, consisting of townhomes, with a proposed future commercial parcel to the north of Broadleaf Lane. Vehicular use area on the site, 0.76 of an acre, and that is require 3,343 square feet of landscaping. Applicant is showing for 4,000 square feet, meeting our requirements. Parking required of 60 spaces, and they're showing for 63. And handicap parking required of 3 spaces, which they have amended the plan since y'all got packets last week, and they now have updated that to 3 handicap parking spaces, meeting ADA requirements. The landscape plan shows a variety of shrubbery and trees lining Rocky Fork Almonville Road and Morton Lane. Landscaping is also shown around the base of the building and within landscape islands. Due to the residential townhomes behind the proposed development, a Type C landscape buffer would be required per the zoning ordinance. The applicant is requesting a 5-foot wide landscape buffer strip with a 6-foot tall vinyl privacy fence in lieu of the Type C landscape buffer due to the configuration of the site. Architectural elevations show the building to be finished with a mixture of brick, stone, and glass glazing on all wall faces. The gas canopy is shown to have primarily stone in combination with brick to match the commercial building. The architectural elevations do meet design review requirements as submitted. Standard comments 1 through 7 all remain at this time. Comment 1, the more of a generic comment, as a gas station constitutes a stormwater hotspot, a stormwater runoff must be treated to remove oil and gas prior to leaving the site. So as a more of an informational comment, that will remain. Comment number 2, staff is concerned about the proposed dumpster area easement. Staff is concerned about the ability for it to be emptied without blocking the road and proximity to the adjoining residences. Staff is also concerned about the location of the dumpster for the commercial building and the proximity to the adjoining residences. Location on the opposite side of the building would be further away from any residences. So this is in reference to for this site in the upper left corner where the townhomes are. This dumpster pad and dumpster itself were installed and completed by the owner of currently both of these tracts, the townhomes and this commercial tract itself right here. The townhome owner believed they needed another dumpster pad location. They currently only have one, which is located at the front entry to the site, and felt that there was no other sites suitable on this current property of the townhomes to locate a dumpster. So as a result, they have placed this dumpster pad on this tract for the commercial, which is to be used by this commercial tract. As a result, the applicant has attempted to work around this dumpster and also located their dumpster adjacent to it, this plan shows. As a result of this comment, the applicant has relocated their dumpster to the opposite side of the parcel, which your plans do show. The dumpster has been relocated now to the north, I guess it's not Orrington north-south, but
Morton Lane side.
correct, Morton Lane side, in the rear of the site. So that is where they have relocated their dumpster. The dumpster that the townhomes constructed is still in its current location. So just to give you a little bit of quick backstory on that, the applicants here can give a little bit more information on that too, but spent the majority of yesterday with the applicant and the townhome owner, kind of working back and forth to try to figure out some kind of a happy medium, as it's caused a little bit of a disturbance, if you will, for the site design and as far as location of that dumpster in proximity to the residences and the nuisance of noise and potentially odor as a result of the dumpsters. So we can come back to that if you want to, but just give you a backstory on comment number 2. Comments 3 and 4, both utility comments that have been addressed sufficiently, so those both can be removed. Comment number 5, the Type C landscape buffer is required between the proposed store and the adjoining residential development. In lieu of this Type C landscape buffer, the applicant is proposing to install a fence with a 5-foot wide landscape buffer consisting of evergreens and shrubs. The reasoning submitting that the applicant has noted a 15-foot wide buffer would be detrimental to the site's ability to have a gas station, as the building would have to be reduced in depth. That would be difficult to lease or occupy. Next part of that comment regarding the fence details to be supplied, the applicant has done that. It is a 6-foot tall vinyl privacy fence, is what they were showing. To amend that comment, the 5-foot wide landscape buffer does not extend the entire length of the rear of the property line due to the dumpster and retaining walls that are also shown on site. So we would ask that the applicant fill in any gaps along the rear property line with the landscape buffer to create a full effect along the rear line, along those townhomes. Comment number 6, we asked them to include those fence details, which they have done so that can be removed. Number 7, regarding the handicap parking stalls to meet ADA, that has been addressed as well, can be removed. Comment number 8, the mechanical screen walls on the top of the building, we asked them to show what details, what material that would be used. They have indicated that is a metal bronze panel, so that has been addressed sufficiently and can be removed as well. And then comments 9 and 10 are both CUD, as this is within their service boundaries. So comments 3, 4, 6, 7, 8 have all been addressed sufficiently, can be removed. With that, staff does recommend approval with those remaining comments.
Mitch, can you speak to lighting, specifically facing the back side of the building towards those townhomes?
Yeah, I mean, lighting is not allowed to shine beyond the property boundaries, in which case it will take effect also. I believe it looks like they probably have some downlighting in the back of the building, just for safety purposes and security, so it will not be allowed to shine beyond that property boundary though.
So, not to be difficult, but how do we have lights on Enon Springs that shine facing the road if it can't leave the property? I don't understand the difference.
Well, it's basically, what he's talking about is primarily when it's abutting
Residential.
residential.
Yes.
Shine the residential.
Shine, they can't shine out onto residential.
Okay.
So let's go back to the dumpster here.
Where's the dumpster?
Where's the dumpster?
Okay.
Should paint it wall.
It's the moving dumpster.
Yeah, so.
All right, so you made a comment that you were concerned about blocking the road when they were dumping the dumpster. Was that part of the discussion, and have you developed a workaround there, or where are we at?
So, we got two dumpsters going on here. So the first dumpster, mainly the one that this comment is regarding, is the one that is shown on their
Right.
site
Right
that was
there.
installed by the townhome developer.
Okay.
So that one is facing Broadleaf after this all gets developed out is probably gonna be a busier road, so albeit is probably a minimal time in which dumpsters get unloaded, albeit there should be times when it's probably gonna be occupied by a dumpster truck doing offload and unload. So really that is what that was in reference to, but you also have the proximity to the townhomes, noise, odor, anything of that nature caused by a dumpster, so that is that part. And
But
then
that's the townhomes,
That's
that's the townhomes.
but it's still on their tract as well, this commercial tract is where it is located. So the applicant has relocated their dumpster, as Steve noted, over towards.
So we're.
Over here.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Correct.
Thank
So-
you.
So they have relocated theirs at least over to the other side to take care of that issue.
So that relieves the stacking of dumpsters.
Correct.
And would therefore allow easier access, correct?
It would,
Yes.
yeah, and it's also further away from the residents that live in those townhomes as far as the odor and the noise when they get emptied.
But
Still-
it's the odor that the townhomes will be delivering to that dumpster, correct?
It's
That's
their
true.
own odor.
Their own order.
Yes.
true.
And they have another dumpster at the other end of the
Yes.
town, right?
They do.
Yeah.
Just for odor carryover.
Yeah.
Okay. That's all I have as far as what I'm.
And staff's good with the type C change with the fence?
I do see the reasoning why they're making their
Yeah, I
request.
do too.
If we
That's
do,
why I'm asking if staff's
if we do extend it the full length and take that privacy fence with landscaping,
Yeah.
it's sufficient.
I think I've recalled that we've done that in other instances with the substitution of a vinyl fence, not a wood, but a vinyl,
And they detailed that.
and they detailed it.
Yeah.
And they also would like to note here, they do not have a drive-through proposed like a lot of these do, so we don't have any kind of drive-through on the rear of the building adjacent to those townhomes or any kind of voice boxes or anything like that.
Okay.
Parking's okay with proposed
Correct.
restaurant, right? Okay.
Is the sidewalk continuing on Rocky Fork?
Yes, I believe it will be.
It will be as part of the improvements. It would not be built as a part of this project. It would be done as part of the improvements that the town is doing. But it's all being built at the same time as the road widening.
Anything else from staff?
Can somebody order pizza?
I have nothing more than I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve the staff
I
comments.
have a motion to approve the staff comments. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second. Further discussion? All those in favor of approving this motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? This motion is approved. We're now on to item 7, subdivision regulations amendment, section 7-101.2, and addition of appendix A.
Yeah, this is what we discussed under the public hearing already. Again, we're just adding the ability for the third form of surety as, and form as approved by the town attorney, and then we did add that form, the appendix that provides a letter of credit example for everyone. So we would recommend this to you.
Questions for staff concerning this amendment?
We have to approve staff comments.
A motion to approve with staff comments. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Further discussion? All those in favor of this motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? This motion is approved. Next, we have a zoning ordinance amendment, Article 4, Article 5, regarding minimum building setbacks for accessory structures.
Yeah, this is an amendment that was discussed at the last joint council and planning commission meeting. Essentially, it changes about 6 or 7 different pieces of the zoning ordinance or locations in the zoning ordinance, but it's all the same thing. It's just in the various districts and within PRDs. The detached accessory buildings, currently they're required to be behind or to the side or rear of the main structure and at least 8 feet from any property line. This would change that distance to 5 feet within any existing zoning districts, as well as adding this requirement within PRDs. Currently, the ordinance is silenced within PUDs, so we wanted to add that so it clarifies that. And that also this would be consistent with what the requirements are in Murfreesboro as well as Rutherford County for this type of structures. So there's some consistency there from around with our neighbors. So again, those amendments are included in your packet. Anything that's being removed will be struck through. The new language is highlighted in yellow in those various amendments. Again, there's several locations, but it's all the same amendment. So
I can also offer, for my time on the BZA, we approved this same exception many times. People would come in and ask for a 3-foot variance on the side.
Yeah, lots get smaller too, you know, they're squeezing everything down, so.
Okay, anything else? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve with staff
I
comments.
have a motion to approve with staff comments. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Further discussion? All those in favor of approving this motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? This motion is approved. We're now on to the bond review report.
we have one
Oh,
other
I'm sorry.
zoning ordinance amendment.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Article 5.
Article 5.
Yep, thank you.
Yeah, this is another amendment that was, again, discussed at the last joint meeting. This would make one change, which would add the use of tourist homes as an allowed use within the C4 district. Certainly that currently this use is allowed already in the C1, 2, 3, 5, and A1 districts, kind of under the wider banner of transient habitation, which would include typical hotels and things like that. But I did include the definition just so you have that as well. But essentially, this would allow for small scale, like Airbnb, Vrbo type tourist home use within the property zone C4. Again, we did have the amendment with the new language highlighted in yellow there for you. And we would recommend this to you.
Specific area or district that this is affecting?
It would just be those C4 areas. It's not a lot of Smyrna that has that C4 district zoning. There's some in the kind of the downtown area. There's a couple of PUDs that have it as an allowed use. It's kind of C4 districts, commercial piece of it.
Okay.
If you take, it's off Sam Davis Road as example, behind Allen's is an example, I think, of one of the C4 areas, correct?
That's right.
And
Yeah,
that's,
it's like an old house that's been converted to
yeah.
an office.
What's driving the addition of this change?
Well, it was, there's some discussion with property owners in the C4 district, talked about it, and then we felt like this was a good change from the standpoint of providing another. We don't allow that type of use in residential districts in Smyrna?
Unless they existed prior to.
Unless they existed prior to 2015, so we thought this was providing another option where that use could be allowed.
I kind of want to circle back. So I can think of a couple of homes that we approved as C4 that may have maybe a salon, beauty salon type thing, or something that, met the definition of a C4, but it could be next to an R1 or an R4, an R3. Are we looking at that, and have we considered that as well, as far as, because I know that when we were looking, strictly in the residential zones, of course, there was a lot of concern about noise and numbers of folks there and things along those lines. So how does that fit with what's being proposed here?
Certainly I think it's something we would have to look at if somebody wanted to actually establish one of these, as far as buffering and things of that nature.
With this amendment, would that automatically grant them the ability to do so? Because they could, if they were a zone C4, then they
would have the right for the use, yeah, they would still have to go through the approval process as far as.
Would it include a site plan? If the
could.
structure was already there?
If the structure's already there, I think we would have to look at it from the standpoint of, is additional parking required? How many rooms are we talking about? Up to 5 is the most you could have.
It's almost like a BZA reapproval in a way. In a way it is. Every C district we have, except C4, right, is already.
It's already an allowed use already,
Yeah.
But as far as buffering goes,
we would have to look at it, if somebody wanted to establish this use in a piece of property zone C4. If they are abutting residential, it would be the same as if they had if it's a salon or an office or whatever, another use that's allowed in C4, it would be the same manner.
same buffering that we would require when you were abutting an R property.
Right, correct. Okay. This just adds this use as an allowed use in that district. It doesn't change the buffering requirements that would be there.
I just think that, some of the concern in the past, especially in just all Rs, was noise and numbers of folks that showed up and things that are associated with that. But if we're talking about, a C4 that abuts an R and that we're going to look at buffering and do the typical things that we do anyway, I guess in theory, they should already have the proper buffers in place.
If the use has changed, right. If it was a residential property that hasn't changed, I think we may have some of those still too, that are C4, still with a grandfathered residential use. So there would be no buffers there, obviously. But if the use changes to this use, to an office, to a hair salon, or some other use that's allowed in a C4 district, we would have to look at the buffering at that.
So we'll look at it at that point. Okay.
So, using some of the examples there on Sam Davis, I'm familiar with them. My concern here is that, and I love the name tourist home, right? It sounds fancy and whatnot, and nice. But my interpretation is what it allows to have happen are these older homes are going to be subdivided into bedrooms, and they're going to be rented out short-term rentals, or super cheap.
That's if you rezone them to C4.
But there's already some existing in this area that I'm talking about, right? So by doing this, it therefore allows them to go ahead and do that. You get these older homes that are caught in this value quagmire where, Mark, you can speak to this since you're in real estate, but some people want to buy these older homes and they need a lot of work, and what's the value of them? Well, the only thing they can do to add value to them is to subdivide them and rent them out. And then you've got this whole home that gets rented out for the next 10, 20 years, and it just continues getting more dilapidated. Unless there's something specific driving the addition of this into the code, then I don't know if I can support
They've got a lot of residences already doing that.
Yeah.
To be honest, there's a lot of people that rent their properties out. in the proper zone. They're renting their properties out and allowing more than one family to live in it or more than one person to have a room in it. So I don't know that this is any different than what's already taking place, but I understand.
We're talking about an existing C4, right? So to Matt's point, if somebody came in and let's just say they had a home that was in one of the Rs, they'd have to apply for a rezoning.
Right.
If they're going commercial of any kind, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
they'd have
so
to
it
rezone
would
it.
come before us and council to determine if something was going to be rezoned at that
But I
point.
think Matthew's question was if it's already zoned C4, for example, and then somebody bought it and just started renting out rooms. My point is, it's no different than residential. That happens anyway. And
Well,
I don't know if
think-
there's a whole lot of teeth we
I
have
mean, and
to
if
fight
it's,
into.
and if, I think the idea would be, with something like this, it would have to be a short term. And this is
Well, that's
not
the key
meant to be
word.
somebody rents a room for
Yeah.
months at a time, yeah.
But I mean, the definition of a tourist home is not, it's one sentence. There's no dictation of term, of stay lengths or anything like that.
Yeah.
There's boarding houses and all that other definitions.
Right, bed and breakfast, whatnot.
But keep in mind, right now, as it stands, they could be gift shops, florist, convenience market, as long as gas is not sold there, professional services for medical, food and beverage service, community assembly, general personal services, religious facilities.
But do any of those allow for
saying-
continuous overnight stays?
I'm just saying that's, you talk about, I guess what our thinking was as staff is those impacts of commercial uses versus someone spending the night with a VRBO did not seem like a greater impact than those commercial uses.
Sure.
That's where it came from, that.
Other questions or discussion? I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve staff comments.
I have a motion to approve with staff comments. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor of approving this motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Okay. Okay, now I believe we are ready for the September bond review report.
Yeah, bond report, I'll go through this quickly. Buckingham Place, Section 3, this is into the maintenance period, so they've got like 4 items left. They can get those, they've told us they're trying to finish those up. If they can get that done by next week, that's when it comes up. We can release it, otherwise extend 3 months. Sundale Section 2, this is one that we can reduce and start the maintenance period. They've got everything's been paved there, so we could recommend reduction to that one to 25%, which is $17,000, and extend that 1 year as the maintenance bond. Greystone 1A and 1C, those are both, we've had a couple years. They are, so some items still including the paving, so we recommend extension of both of those at the current amounts at 6 months. Woodmont 8B, they are, have indicated they're trying to get the paving scheduled and everything on that. We would recommend a 6-month extension on that one as well at this time, because again, they have not paved that one. We have had it a couple of years. Burton Farms Annex, we've only had this one 1 year. They did request an extension for 6 months, so they said they think they can get finished in 6 months, so with what's left to be built. So we recommend a 6-month extension on that one. And then Woodcrest 5, there are no issues. Everything's finished. It's the end of the maintenance period, so we recommend release of that one. That's what we got.
Questions for Kevin concerning the bond review report?
Motion to approve the bond report as presented.
I have a motion to approve as presented. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Further discussion? All those in favor of approving the September bond review report, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The bond review report is approved. Staff comments, any other business?
I don't have anything else.
Anything from the commission? We stand adjourned.